Episode 1. Picture Book's Power. Imagine a 3-year-old sitting cross-legged on a living room carpet, not yet able to name all the colors in the crayon box, but already decoding worlds. In her small hands, a book with 17 pages, bold ink drawings, maybe 4 sentences in total. Now listen to what is actually happening behind those bright eyes. Neural fireworks, tiny synapses lighting up across the left hemisphere's language centers. Heart rate gently sinking to the rise and fall rhythm of an adult's read-aloud voice. A still-growing prefrontal cortex rehearsing empathy by tracking the joy, then distress, then relief of a square-jawed puppy who loses and finds a red ball. Most important of all, a child is being ushered, softly and irreversibly, into the human practice of story. This is where a lifelong relationship with reading begins, not with syllable flashcards or phonics drills, but with picture books, portals where image and text strike a deal to do together what neither can do alone. In this episode, we will linger inside that beginning, asking when, why, and how these early volumes carve grooves that echo for decades. We will hear from neuroscientists, an award-winning illustrator, parents whispering bedtime pages, and the teachers whose libraries become launching pads for the next generation's imagination. First, a confession. I used to think picture books were cute baby steps on the way to the real stuff. Real, as in chunky novels, philosophical essays, and the eventual midlife attempt at Proust. Then I watched my youngest nephew recite every beat of Julia Donaldson's The Gruffalo, including the rising panic of the mouse and the thunder crack of the Gruffalo himself. I noticed he was not memorizing sounds only. He was mapping emotion through rhythm. He furrowed his brow as tension built and relaxed his shoulders with the fourth wall punchline. In that moment, I understood. This was not kid literature. This was the starter code for narrative circuitry itself. The science tells the same story. A 2020 longitudinal study out of Ohio State University tracked 178 families from child age 1 to 4.5. Kids who were read one short picture book daily heard roughly 78,000 more words by kindergarten than peers who were not. The implications spill beyond vocabulary. When researchers hooked toddlers to portable EEG caps during read-aloud sessions, they saw synchronized theta waves, neural entrainment between the listener and the reader, a phenomenon also found in adult empathy experiments. In plain terms, when you read Goodnight Moon to a toddler, your brains literally begin dancing together. The child is not only absorbing language, she is practicing psychic attunement with a caregiver. Now zoom out to society. That early attunement becomes foundational social glue. Picture books are among the first cultural objects children hold without being told to share because the sharing is intrinsic. Lapse at reading demands two bodies co-creating meaning. Educator Rudine Sims Bishop famously called books mirrors and windows. Picture books magnify this. A fox in a tuxedo can mirror a shy preschooler's outsized fears. A crowded market in Nairobi can widen an Iowa toddler's window of possible worlds before that child has learned the name Nairobi. I spoke with Maya Al-Hanbali, a Syrian-born illustrator now living in Texas, who deliberately paints skin tones in watercolor layers so no two characters look the same. 4-year-olds have no patience for lectures on diversity, Maya laughs, but they will notice that Kiki's mom wears a hijab and carries a skateboard, and suddenly, hijab has new company in the limbic system. Let's listen next to a parent. Leah, a nurse and single mother of twins, confesses that evenings in her house used to consist of refrigeration cleanout and 2 wild bouts of Paw Patrol angst. Then, a coworker left a tattered copy of Last Stop on Market Street in the staff lounge. Leah started reading it at 7:03 sharp. The twins figured out that when the grandma in the book said, "Sometimes when you're surrounded by dirt, CJ, you're blooming," something quiet settled across their eyebrows. Leah could almost chart the dopamine dip. By the 6th night, the book signaled nighttime, no screen, no bargaining. Their breathing changed even before page 2. Now the twins reenact scenes using Duplo buses and rubber band headphones. The living room became Nana's church soup kitchen, the twins its volunteers, empathy being kneaded like pizza dough. For teachers, picture books are stealth pedagogy. I visited Miss Ramirez's kindergarten in East Los Angeles the day after Halloween. Plastic superhero crowns still poked from backpacks, but the circle gathered round a much older hero, a bespectacled girl called Ada Twist. Miss Ramirez asks, what do scientists do? Hands shoot up. Ask questions. Write everything down. Later, I wander the science corner. Vinegar eruptions, balloon rockets, each station labeled with hand-drawn mini Adas. The 5-year-olds aren't mimicking a fictional character. They are internalizing scientific identity through mirror neurons. The book performed an introduction without ever sounding didactic. Indeed, one of the quietest revolutions in early education is moving picture books from the story block to the STEM block. Librarian Betsy Bird points out that Mercer Myers' There's a Nightmare in My Closet teaches hypothesis testing. Child posits monster, designs experiment, records results. Laugh if you like, but 4-year-olds who rehearse scientific steps inside fiction are statistically more likely to predict middle-grade math story problems with confidence. Neurologically, narrative and numerical reasoning share the temporoparietal junction. Picture books practice that juncture on training wheels. But the power is not only cerebral. Watch a child encounter loss for the first time. Mo Willems's Knuffle Bunny Free ends with a toy left forever on an airplane. Trixie's Final Wave detonates soft devastation in 8-page turns. Tears, confusion, head buried in adult shoulder. Yet picture books offer manageable sorrow. The reader can shut the page, turn back, rehearse closure, rehearse grief, or insist on a sequel. Therapists call this bibliotherapy light, a controlled sandbox for real feelings. By 4, the child has rehearsed losing, remembering, letting go. Anna Dewdney, creator of the Llama Llama series, told a reporter before her death, "Empathy is not taught, it is modeled. My books don't teach kids to be kind, they just are kind. Kids learn to breathe with the cadence of kindness and then cannot help but exhale it." You can see the exhale in preschool classrooms, where small groups act out stories using sock puppets. The puppets squabble, apologize, hug. Nobody announced a values lesson. The story simply moved through bodies. Researcher Marianne Wolf calls this the embodied simulation loop. A picture set loose in the motor cortex will stage a play long before moral philosophy gets the script. Every librarian has that shelf, the one bruised by affection. My neighborhood branch keeps a battered copy of Guess How Much I Love You. The pages look like accordion pleats, soft and swollen. One afternoon, I stand behind a dad reading it to his infant strapped to his chest. After 25 readings, the father now improvises gestures. Arms stretch wide, fingers hop like hares, transforming the text into almost liturgy. A senior citizen browsing in the next aisle leans over. "Use those same moves for my kids," he smiles. "Now I read it to my great-granddaughter on FaceTime." Time collapses inside a single board book, the spine cracked like a family tree. Stories, it appears, are not wasted on the very young. They are scattered like millstones that grind the grain for decades, which raises the question, how to choose the good stones from the plastic, shiny ones. A few guidelines we heard repeated among experts. 1. Image and text as equal partners. If the illustrations merely decorate sentences, the synergy is lost. Look for spreads where a picture sneaks a joke the words won't confess. 2. Rhythmic cadence pleasant to the adult tongue, because you will read it 97 times. The earworms that bury themselves in caregiver memory become phonological anchors for the child. 3. Windows and mirrors. Optimal home stacks contain dogs who speak Latin, kids who roll wheelchairs, grandpas who cook soup, and monsters shedding sparkly tears. 4. Interactive potential. Pages you can turn slow for suspense, or faster for chase, or upside down entirely to demonstrate surprise. Leave room for reader improvisation. 5. Room for residue. The perfect ending is not closed like a Tupperware lid. It's the window left ajar. So 20 minutes later, your child asks, "But why did the snail wave goodbye?" Before we leave the sandbox, let's meet Fatima, a Head Start teacher in Detroit who accesses all of her picture books through a free app curated by WorldReader called BookSmart. Huddled under LED fairy lights, because half her sockets are still waiting for repairs, Fatima reads to a circle of children whose home languages span Arabic, Bengali, and ASL. We watch as she toggles the text to 3 languages in real time. A child grins when he finds that blue in English, azul in Spanish, and nil in Arabic all match the same swimming whale. Fatima whispers to me, "Our brains are already trilingual, but the pictures make the union official." Hold that smile and freeze the frame. Inside a single splash-page blue whale, a synaptic corridor is under construction. The child is marrying sound to symbol, color to concept, heart to other heart. Neurologically speaking, metaphor is born here. The leap from literal whale to feeling words like oceanic or lonesome will be easier later, because once upon a page turn, caught toddler neurons linked wet ink to wide water. Let's linger on one final snapshot. I came across it while volunteering at an NICU book program. A mother reading Pat the Bunny to an intubated preemie whose entire life fits in a plastic box. The overlay of fragile plastic and tactile fur seems absurd, almost cruel. Yet the nurse reports that the baby's respiration rate steadies within 4 syllables. Neonatologists call it kangaroo care by proxy, the voice a stand-in for skin-to-skin warmth. In developmental terms, the auditory cortex is jumping the queue, leapfrogging past visual deficits to lay down a story blanket in the premature brain. Weeks later, when the baby finally graduates to open-air cribs, she seems soothed by any book waved above her face. Story, begun too soon, becomes not luxury but life support. By now, the evidence feels tidal. The first 5 years of life flood with nearly 90% of the brain's total growth. Picture books, with their portable universes, are among the cheapest, most democratic scaffolding humans have ever invented. In refugee camps, teachers scatter photocopies of Shantan's wordless The Arrival so children can narrate their own migration across silent panels. In rural Appalachia, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library mails 1 book a month to every newborn. Longitudinal data already show higher kindergarten readiness. In an overstressed future, climate, inequality, pandemic, stories started at 2 retain the capacity to picture alternative futures. So what should a caregiver take away from this episode? First, abandon the idea of teaching lessons during story time. Focus on co-experiencing. The sound of your heartbeat against the child's spine is more instructional than any moral you could tack on. Second, keep a stack, physical, digital, or borrowed, that rotates like a small moon. Rereads are crucial. Novelty prevents staleness. And third, remember that you, the adult, are being neurologically rewired too. Functional MRI studies confirm that reading to children lights up adult reward centers, similar to listening to music or receiving friendship touch. When life feels too heavy to pick up, Dragons Love Tacos One More Night, remind yourself, this is mutual therapy disguised as children's literature. A short, annotated starter shelf, drawn from classrooms and nurseries I visited. The Snowy Day by Ezra Jack Keats, because a single kid in a red snowsuit still holds the patent on wonder. Jabari Jumps by Gaia Cornwall, bravery measured not by the height of the diving board, but by the trusted presence of a dad. Last Stop on Market Street by Matt de la Pena and Christian Robinson, economics of gratitude, economics of inequality, all in one bus ride. Extra Yarn by Mac Barnett, power wearing a kid-sized cardigan, magical realism as social justice fable. Thank You, OMU by Oj Mora, communal soup, communal care, communal page collages. Pair these with an invite to parents. Swap 2 titles each month at Little Free Libraries or the PTA WhatsApp. Curated crowds are just as strong as experts. As we close this first episode, let's watch one last child, Mira, age 3. She flips the final page of We Are Water Protectors, then sprints to the garden hose, demanding a ceremonial refill for the toy teacups. Plastic drips onto dirt. She recites fragments. We stand. With our voices. We are still here. The language belongs to Carol Lindstrom. The conviction belongs to Mira. In that muddy puddle, a membrane is dissolving between story and self. The book ends, but an episode, in the deeper, lifelong sense, has just begun inside her. Picture books once seemed small enough to chew. In retrospect, they were large enough to anchor a lifetime. Their colors become stained glass memories that tint how we see risk, love, sovereignty. Their cadences remix into the playlists of adulthood. And so, the next time you crack open a board book, feel free to skip the humble disclaimers. You are not wasting 10 minutes. You are seeding 10 decades. You are proclaiming in the softest whisper possible that stories belong to every age, and every age to stories.